Hello, welcome to English. Today we're going to be talking about pre-writing, specifically brainstorming, free writing, and developing a viable thesis. So let's start off by talking about free writing and brainstorming. Brainstorming is the name given to a situation when a person generates ideas around a specific area of interest. It doesn't matter if they're dumb ideas. It doesn't matter if they're great ideas. It's just ideas. The idea of just generating everything you can think about in regards to a specific topic for 10 minutes, for example. Free writing is the process of writing down ideas to help build a topic for an essay. So brainstorming might generate an idea, and then you free write about that idea for 5 or 10 minutes to give you more ideas. It's literally like building Legos. The first Lego will fit into the second Lego. You might take some Legos out at some point, but eventually those Legos will create a structure of sorts that will help you identify if there is enough information to write about to fulfill the assignment. It's like taking a drive around a neighborhood that you're thinking about moving into. You may not have a specific destination, but you would like to see what the place you were thinking about moving to is going to be like. So, we don't go too in depth at this point. We're really just skimming the surface to see if this is a topic that we could be comfortable writing about, and more importantly, have plenty to write about. So how do you free write? You just write. That's basically it. It's like warming up for a run. Ignore your grammar, your sentence structure, and your punctuation. Don't worry about finding the perfect word. Add other items, ideas, and questions in the margin as they occur to you. So, when you are in a free writing situation, there are really no rules except to write. So over here on the right hand side is an example of free writing. The topic: describe the most beautiful place you've seen. And then this person responds by writing, I remember climbing to the top of Smolensk Cathedral in autumn, the leaves of St. Petersburg on fire, like an ocean of gold red, leaving me breathless with its depth. Stretching out for miles and miles, it was all I could see, and suddenly the grime and sorrow of the city was drowned with beauty. God's beauty, God's love for everyone, his artistic touch, meant just for me at that moment. So, the description of the place is one thing. How it made you feel is another. And as you are free writing, you're going to be able to identify the elements that are appropriate for your topic and the stuff that's just kind of in there, like lint in a dryer trap. You just gotta put everything out there and throw out the stuff you don't need. And maybe you'll find a sock. Who knows? So here are some techniques. You want to write the topic at the top of the paper. Set a time limit, 5 or 10 minutes. Write nonstop about anything associated with the topic. Review and highlight useful phrases and ideas. So over here on the right is another set of free writing, and it's basically a lot of ideas and quotes and sources. So I'll just go ahead and read part of it for you. Philo, even though they argue strong site Philippitree, despite seasonal movement away from the breeding sites, Poland et al. 2008 genetics suggests this is only true at a broad scale, not a local scale. Probably not kin as expected, because Pomeroy et al.'s paper was BS. And we know what BS stands for, right, folks? And ecology. And what you're going to see here is this person is writing about a topic that they're very comfortable talking about, and they're using a lot of terminology, and they are referring to studies that they may have been thinking about. And again, what we want to do is just throw all our ideas into writing so that we can look at them and figure out what's useful and what's not. Because just like, you open up the fridge looking to see what you want to eat. Do you want to eat a bottle of pancake syrup? No. Is there some leftover sandwich? Sure. Or ham and cheese? Sure. So there's always going to be stuff that's useful and stuff that we could use but probably isn't that important. One of the ways that we often have of examining a topic is the use of clustering, which we talked about a little bit last week with the template that I gave you. So with clustering, you're exploring ideas before committing them to a linear outline through brainstorming and free association. So you might write for 10 minutes and then you're going to break down what you've written into this cluster so that you can kind of see how to organize it. And that's the important thing, is you want to explore the ideas. Don't be afraid to add or revise them as you brainstorm, because ultimately it's going to help you organize how you're going to write. So, creating a cluster. We choose a word that is central to the assignment and circle it. So in this one, it's turtles. Woohoo! If you are writing about office management, you may begin with efficiency, which really is just not that much interesting, so we're going to stick with turtles. Write down all the words and phrases that you associate with that word. Use circles and lines to connect your ideas and thoughts. So, we have all these circles here. We have freshwater, enemies, sharp claws, saltwater, climate, color, eyes, reproduction, shell, endangered species, food, habitat, appearance, species, pets, and, essentially what they're doing is creating this opportunity of all the topics that could go into your essay. You'll probably organize them into categories or classifications, but the most important part is to get your ideas on paper, because most of us need a visual representation to truly understand what we're writing about. What's your last step? Relax, read, and repeat. And you just keep adding things until you're ready to write your actual essay, and you're going to start outlining. So here is a cluster template example, and again, this is what we used last week when we were doing the ideas and keywords for technology and how it influences our daily lives. So this is a great opportunity for you to use this kind of example template for anything you're writing about, because it really does help you organize your thoughts in a much more robust way. So we're going to move on to the wonderful thesis statement. The thesis statement declares the conclusions that you have reached about your topic. It makes a promise to the reader about what you will discuss, the purpose, and the direction of your paper. So in a sense, it's a blueprint for what your paper is going to look like. It is focused and specific enough to be proven within the boundaries of your paper, and it expresses one primary idea. And it also can explain the relationship between the pieces of evidence that you're using to support your argument. Most importantly, is generally located near the end of the introduction or the first paragraph with most of the essays we'll be writing in this class. So the example over here is basically a question. Why is the Mississippi River so important in Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn, which is one of the great American novels? So you start with a question like that, and then the thesis is the answer to that question. The river comes to symbolize both division and progress, as it separates our characters and country while still providing the best chance for Huck and Jim to get to know one another. So when we are looking at assignments, try to always put the assignment in the form of a question to help develop your thesis, so that you're answering your thesis or answering the question as your thesis. So we're going to look at some comparisons here between strong thesis and a weak one. So the first thing, a strong thesis takes some sort of stand. Your thesis needs to show your conclusions about a subject. For example, if you are writing a paper for a class about weight loss, you might be asked to choose a diet product to evaluate. Here are two thesis statements. First one, there are some negative and positive aspects to banana herb tea supplement. This is a very weak thesis. First, it fails to take a stand. Second, the phrase negative and positive aspects is a very vague term. So is it negative in terms that it'll kill you, or positive in the fact that it'll make you lose 10 pounds overnight? So again, you need specificity. Here's a better option. Because banana herb tea supplement promotes rapid weight loss that results in the loss of muscle and lean body mass, it poses a potential danger to customers. And this is a strong thesis because it takes a stand. It says it promotes weight loss that results in the loss of muscle and lean body mass, so it's actually dangerous. It doesn't actually help. So you're taking a stand. You're not just being wishy-washy and saying, oh, it's sometimes good and sometimes bad. A strong thesis also justifies discussion. Your thesis should indicate the point of the discussion. If your assignment is to write a paper on different family systems using your own family as an example, you might come up with either of these two thesis statements. First, my family is an extended family. This is a weak thesis because it states an observation. Your readers won't be able to tell the point of the statement and will probably stop reading. And, unless you grew up orphaned or in foster care, generally most of us have extended families. But that's not what this writer is trying to say. So the second option is a much better thesis. While most American families would view marriage between distant cousins as a threat to the nuclear family structure, many Iranian families, like my own, believe that these marriages help reinforce family ties in an extended family. So this is a strong thesis because it shows you how your experience contradicts a widely accepted view. A good strategy for creating a strong thesis is to show that the topic is controversial. Readers will be interested in reading the rest of the essay to see how you support your point. So once you start talking about marriage between cousins, we start thinking about, Game of Thrones, brothers and sisters, incest, sex, all kinds of good stuff. And I'm being very sarcastic when I say good stuff. I'm saying that, that sentence about marriage between cousins is enough to grab your interest. And I'm not saying you have to always refer to sexuality or something like that, but it is going to be much more interesting and stronger than my family is an extended family. Next, a strong thesis expresses one main idea. If your thesis expresses more than one idea, then you might confuse your readers about the subject of your paper. For example, companies need to exploit the marketing potential of the internet, and web pages can provide both advertising and customer support. Now, even though this is a fairly lengthy thesis statement, it's a weak thesis statement because the reader can't decide whether the paper is about marketing on the internet or web pages and customer support. So, there's two ideas going on here, and we need to diffuse it into one idea, which is what we're going to do next. So to revise the thesis, the relationship between the two ideas needs to become clearer. One way to revise the thesis would be to write, because the internet is filled with tremendous marketing potential, companies should exploit this potential by using web pages that offer both advertising and customer support. it's a stronger thesis because it shows that the two ideas are ultimately related. Now, here's the tip. Put a little cross next to this, or a star, or whatever shape that floats your collective boat. A great many clear and engaging thesis statements contain words like because, since, so, although, unless, and however. So, in terms of words that signify to the reader, I'm about to read a thesis statement, those are 6 examples that you see on a regular basis. And again, put a star next to that. Make sure you remember it and keep it close to your heart when you are writing. A thesis statement should be specific. It should preview exactly what your paper will be about and will help you keep your paper to a manageable topic. So in a sense, you're telling the punchline of the joke first, and then you tell the joke. So you are not telling a story per se in an essay. What you're doing is you're telling somebody an answer to a question. So here are some examples of a non-specific and a specific thesis statement. Here's our non-specific. World hunger has many causes and effects. Obviously, this is a weak thesis statement for 2 major reasons. First, world hunger can't be discussed thoroughly in 5 or 10 pages. Second, many causes and effects is very vague. You should be able to identify specific causes and effects. So, an alternative would be to write as a thesis statement, hunger persists in Appalachia because jobs are scarce and farming in the infertile soil is rarely profitable. This is a strong thesis because it narrows the subject to a very specific and manageable topic, which is hunger in Appalachia, and it also identifies the specific causes for the existence, and that's the no jobs and the soil isn't really useful for growing stuff. So when you are looking at a thesis statement, you want to make sure that it's detailed enough that it gives the reader a very solid idea of where everything is going. So, if you have watched this entire video and you are still very, very sad about having to write thesis statements, I found a formula for creating thesis statements. I borrowed it from vapingo.com, and basically what it comes down to is this. From examining Claim 1, Claim 2, and Claim 3, it is clear that blank, and that's your opinion. So here is an example. If you've seen the movie Minions, it would be beneficial. From examining Minions, cramped working conditions, low pay, and lack of vacation entitlement, it is clear that Gru is a bad employer whose HR practices should be investigated. So, if you are stuck, if you are weeping, and it is 20 minutes before you are supposed to submit an assignment, just use a formula if you can't come up with anything better. This is the last case scenario. Try to be more creative, more individualistic when writing a thesis. But if you really get in a bad place, at least here's a formula you can use to make sure your thesis statement is there. And let me tell you, throughout college, you will be writing a million thesis statements, even if you don't think you will be. But yeah, pretty much as you move into the higher level classes, you're going to be doing more writing. So that's it for me today. If you have any questions, please feel free to text or email me. If you have a question but are not in my class, please feel free to leave a comment and I will respond as quickly as I can. Have a fabulous day.